A girl was followed to a remote corner by a pervert uncle after she had just finished using the toilet. "Help!" she cried out. At that moment, the pervert suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest and fell to the ground in agony, motionless. What was even stranger, a black notebook fell from the sky just then. Haisha, curious, approached and found the name of the pervert written in it. Just as he was trying to make sense of it, a chilling voice echoed in his mind. "I am the god of death. The person whose name is written in this notebook will die." Excited by the newfound power, Haisha's uncontrollable emotions led him to begin a brutal crusade against criminals who had evaded justice. Their cause of death was heart paralysis, and those wronged by the criminals were left to thank Haisha. Meanwhile, Ye Shenyue, a member of the investigation team, grew suspicious, noticing that the deaths of the perverts kept occurring with no explanation. He was unaware of the secret unfolding around him. Then, a shocking incident occurred. A mysterious tape was sent to a TV station, demanding its broadcast, or else the staff would be killed. In a desperate bid to save themselves, they aired the tape, which warned, "I am the second Jira. Those who know Jira are criminals who deserve to die from heart paralysis." The broadcast caused chaos, and soon the anchor fell dead from heart paralysis on live television. The people were gripped with fear, but also hope, wondering if this mysterious figure was their savior. Amid the panic, the investigation team attempted to control the situation, but more tragedies followed. Police officers, too, succumbed to heart paralysis. Elle, who had remained calm until now, trembled in fear, realizing the gravity of the situation. The voice from the TV echoed again, "I want you to know that I have eyes." Elle understood the secret of these eyes. Before dying, the killer could transfer their deadly gaze. Elle refused, fearing the loss of half his life. The TV broadcast suddenly cut out when a police car crashed into the live stream. A mysterious man, Zheng Xiu's father, emerged from the car, taking charge and halting the broadcast. He knew that if the two Jiras joined forces, no one could stop them. Desperate, he sought to find the second Jira before Elle did, hoping to gain control over the power of the eyes of the dead god. Yue, aware of the danger, needed the eyes of the second Jira to stop Elle. His task became urgent, and he headed to the TV station, knowing the second Jira might already be there. Haisha, a popular idol, watched the broadcast closely, hoping his idol Yue would come to him. He used the eyes of the dead god to locate Yue, realizing that Yue was the second Jira. Haisha admired Jira because, years ago, his parents were killed by robbers and the police couldn't catch the culprit. But mysteriously, the killer was soon found dead, with Haisha believing that Jira was the one responsible for his retribution. Haisha researched Yue's background and soon realized that they shared a tragic connection. He waited for Yue one night and introduced himself. "Hello, nice to meet you. I'm me Haisha." At first, Yue thought Haisha was just his sister's classmate, until Haisha handed him the death note. The moment Yue touched it, the death god, Jira, appeared before them. Fearing the secret being exposed, Yue quickly took Haisha home. "Excuse me," Yue's father said when he saw the superstar and his son together. The tension was high as Haisha was pushed onto the bed, and Yue warned him about the dangers of exposing the truth. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Haisha apologized and promised to follow Yue's every command from then on. He handed over the death note to Yue, offering his life entirely. His one request, "Let me be your girlfriend." However, Yue, always calculated, began to plan their next moves carefully. Even so, Yue could only go to the meeting with his head held high. Meanwhile, as a popular idol, Haisha had been closely monitoring the movements of the outside world from the TV station. He firmly believed that his idol, Yue, would answer his call and come to him. Activating his eyes of the dead god, Haisha began scanning the hall for Yue. To his shock, he immediately recognized that Yue was Gila himself, because his eyes could not see the lifespan of a dead reporter. The reason Haisha admired and revered Gila was deeply personal. Years ago, Haisha's parents were brutally murdered by robbers. Though the police apprehended a suspect, lack of concrete evidence led to the killer's release. Haisha had been helpless, watching justice slip away. However, he never expected retribution to arrive so swiftly. The suspect mysteriously died without a trace. Haisha later discovered through investigation that the person who avenged his parents was none other than Gila. Determined to meet Yue, Haisha waited for him one night. "Wait a minute. Hello. Nice to meet you. I'm me, Haisha," he said, introducing himself. At first, Yue thought Haisha might be one of his sister's classmates. That was until Haisha handed Yue the death note. "Touch it," Haisha said. The moment Yue touched the notebook, the death god Gila appeared before them. Fearing exposure, Yue quickly brought Haisha home. "Excuse me," Yu's father said, surprised to see the superstar entering their house and, even more astonishingly, Yu's room. It was as if the family's luck had skyrocketed. Inside the room, Yue pressed Haisha against the bed, his tone grave. "If the police catch you, Gila's secret will be exposed," Yue warned. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Haisha quickly apologized. He promised to obey Yue completely and handed over the death note, fully surrendering himself. However, Haisha had one request: "Let me be your girlfriend." Yue, ever cautious, immediately declined. He couldn't trust Haisha's true intentions. At that moment, the death god Leimu revealed the full extent of Haisha's tragic past. Understanding Haisha's sacrifice, Yue embraced him and whispered, "For me, you gave up half of your life, and your eyes will be my weapon. I'm so happy." Excited, Yue was ready to enact his terrifying plans. What Yue didn't anticipate was that El had been observing him all along. El suspected that the second Gila had already met the first. If Yue was indeed Gila, his demise was inevitable. The weight of El's deductions unsettled Yue. As Yue and his team were preparing to leave for the countermeasure room, Haisha appeared unexpectedly. Yue was speechless, but quickly realized this was a golden opportunity. "Is he your friend?" Yue asked, pointing at El. "His name is Long Qi, isn't it?" Without hesitation, Haisha removed El's mask, revealing that Long Qi was not the man's real name. Yue smirked, realizing that Haisha's eyes had already uncovered El's true name. Victory was within reach, or so it seemed. Before Yue could act, El grabbed Haisha's hand, exclaiming, "I'm your loyal fan." The commotion attracted a crowd, surrounding Haisha in an overwhelming frenzy. To prevent chaos, Haisha reluctantly withdrew from the scene. Yue, thrilled by the turn of events, immediately called Haisha to ask for El's real name. However, to Yue's shock, El answered the phone instead. El revealed that the chaos had been his plan all along to retrieve Haisha's phone. Meanwhile, El's team had already arrested Haisha and taken him into custody. Upon investigation, the police found damning evidence on the tape, fibers from Haisha's clothing and strands of his hair. It was only a matter of time before the truth unraveled, leaving Yue trapped in a precarious situation. Imprisoned, something happened that shook the investigation team to its core. A new wave of criminal deaths occurred, all following the same pattern: heart paralysis. This development baffled El and his team, as both Yue and Haisha had been under constant surveillance. El, though highly skeptical, began to question his conclusions. Could it be that there was another Gila operating in the shadows? Meanwhile, Yu, who had lost all memories of the Death Note, maintained his facade of innocence, playing the role of a confused and wrongfully accused teenager. His performance was so convincing that even some members of the investigation team started to doubt El's relentless pursuit of him. At the same time, Haisha, now free from the memories of the Death Note, fully reverted to her previous self, a kind-hearted and innocent girl. Her demeanor and flawless responses during interrogation left no room for doubt about her innocence. The public began to criticize El's methods, accusing him of detaining two innocent people without concrete evidence. However, El, with his unyielding resolve, refused to let Yue or Haisha off the hook completely. He secretly ordered enhanced surveillance on both of them, determined to uncover the truth. But Yue, as cunning as ever, had already anticipated this. His meticulous plan was unfolding perfectly. Unbeknownst to El, the notebook Yue had buried in the forest had already found its next successor, thanks to Leimu. This new wielder of the Death Note, completely unrelated to Yue, began carrying out their own form of justice, further confusing the investigation and shifting suspicion away from Yue. On the 15th day of imprisonment, Yue was finally released due to lack of evidence. The public outcry against El grew louder, forcing him to temporarily back off. Yue walked out of the confinement room with an air of triumph, though he hid it well behind a mask of relief and gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me," Yue said to the team, feigning humility. "I hope this proves I'm not Gila." El, however, wasn't entirely convinced. You may have fooled everyone else, Yue, but I'll be watching you closely, he thought to himself. Meanwhile, Haisha, who had also been released, approached Yue with a mix of gratitude and confusion. "Thank you for standing by me," she said. Though she no longer remembered the death note or her connection to Gila, her trust in Yue remained unshaken. Yue, ever the manipulative genius, smiled warmly. "Don't mention it. We'll get through this together." As Yue walked away, his mind was already racing with his next moves. The current chaos had not only cleared his name, but also provided the perfect smokescreen for his ultimate plan. With the death note now in the hands of a new successor, Yue could operate in the shadows, free from suspicion. And as always, his ultimate goal remained the same, to create a new world where he alone would reign as its god. Gao Tian, who had lost his composure completely, was now a cornered animal. He screamed desperately about the power of the notebook, insisting it was real and that he was the new Jira. But his words only seemed like the delusions of a madman to those who were watching. The director, skeptical but curious, examined the notebook. It looked ordinary at first glance, but when he read the instructions inside, a chill ran down his spine. Still, he dismissed it as some sort of elaborate prank and ordered the notebook to be secured as evidence. Meanwhile, Yue, who had been following the events closely, smirked in satisfaction. His plan had unfolded perfectly. Gao Tian's reckless behavior and desperation had not only exposed him, but also diverted all suspicion away from Yue and Haisha. Yue's memory of the death note had not yet returned, but his instincts and meticulous strategies were as sharp as ever. Now, if the investigation continues, El, though relieved to have captured Gao Tian, still couldn't shake off the nagging suspicion that Yue was somehow involved. The timing of Yue's suggestions and reasoning seemed too convenient, too precise. Nevertheless, for now, all the evidence pointed squarely at Gao Tian. The investigation team interrogated Gao Tian extensively, but his story about the death note and the god of death seemed too far-fetched. Even when he detailed how he used the notebook to kill criminals, it sounded like the ramblings of a desperate man trying to cover up his crimes. Still, El couldn't dismiss everything Gao Tian said. There were too many coincidences aligning with the real Jira. Yue's next move. Back home, Yue reflected on the recent events. Though he had no memory of the death note, his subconscious was piecing together fragments of the past. He felt a strange connection to the events, as if he had been part of something far greater than he could comprehend at the moment. As days passed, Gao Tian's trial became a media spectacle. Public opinion was divided. Some believed he was the real Jira, while others thought he was merely a copycat trying to emulate the original. Yue watched the chaos unfold with a calm demeanor, knowing that this turmoil would keep El preoccupied for some time. The return of memories. Unbeknownst to Yue, the death note buried in the forest was slowly pulling him back into its grasp. One day, while walking through a quiet street, Yue felt an inexplicable urge to take a detour. His legs carried him to the very spot where he had buried the notebook. As he stood there, a wave of memories came crashing back. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. He was Jira. Everything he had planned, every step he had taken, was to create a new world under his rule. And now, with Gao Tian taking the fall, the path was clear for him to reclaim his throne as the god of the new world. Yue dug up the notebook, and the moment he touched it, Lei Mu appeared before him. "Welcome back, Yue," the god of death said with a sinister grin. "It seems you've remembered everything." Yue smiled, his eyes gleaming with renewed determination. "Yes, and it's time to continue what I started. The world needs Jira." With the death note back in his possession and Gao Tian out of the picture, Yue was ready to execute his next grand plan. However, he knew El would not give up so easily. The battle between them was far from over, and this time, Yue was determined to emerge victorious. The stage is set. As Yue walked away from the forest, his mind raced with ideas. He now had the advantage of anonymity and the element of surprise. El might still be suspicious of him, but without evidence, there was nothing he could do. The new world was within reach, and Yue was ready to do whatever it took to claim it. The war between justice and vengeance, between El and Jira, was about to enter its most dangerous phase yet. Events unfolded, Yue's meticulous planning came to fruition. El's countermeasures, brilliant as they were, could not outmatch Yu's ability to manipulate every variable to his advantage, the final steps in Yue's plan. After regaining his memories and the eyes of the god of death, Yue's perspective became sharper and his resolve stronger. The death of El left a void in the investigation, and with El gone, no one could stand against him. However, Yu knew that there was one final obstacle in his path: his father. His father, a man of unyielding principles, had taken a strong stance in support of El's experiments and investigations. Yu recognized that his father's moral rigidity made him a potential threat. The setup. Yue, with a heavy heart, devised a plan to eliminate his father while ensuring it appeared as an unfortunate accident. His father's dedication to justice made him predictable, and Yue used this to his advantage. He manipulated a situation in which his father became the target of a criminal whose name he had planted in the death note. At the same time, Yue orchestrated the perfect alibi. He made sure he was seen in a public setting, participating in a university lecture, surrounded by classmates and professors, while his father fell victim to the criminal's random attack. The execution. As Yue's father pursued a supposed lead to apprehend a dangerous criminal, the trap was sprung. The criminal, whose actions were dictated by the death note, attacked with precision, resulting in the elder man's death. Yue watched the news broadcast later that night with a solemn expression, masking the satisfaction that lay beneath. Public sympathy poured in for Yue, the grieving son, and he played his part to perfection, solidifying his position as a young man who had lost so much yet remained strong. The world under Yue, with El dead, his father eliminated, and all suspicion wiped clean, Yue began to accelerate his plans for a new world order. The death note became his ultimate tool of justice, used to punish those he deemed unworthy, and to shape the world into his vision of peace and order. Haisha, now completely under Yu's control, continued to serve as a pawn in his schemes. Lei Mu, the god of death, watched silently, knowing that Yue had fully embraced the role of Jira and would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. The inevitable descent. Despite his victories, Yue's path was not without its shadows. The sacrifices he made and the people he eliminated left an indelible mark on his soul. His mind, sharp and calculating, began to fray under the weight of his ambitions. The power of the Death Note consumed him, transforming him from a once idealistic student into a cold, ruthless god of death. But in his mind, it was all worth it. He had created a new world, one where justice prevailed, his justice. Conclusion. Yue had won every battle, silenced every critic, and defeated every enemy. Yet, in his heart, he remained haunted by the knowledge that his victory came at the cost of everything he once held dear. The world was his, but at what price? The god of death watched from the shadows, knowing that every rise must inevitably lead to a fall. And though Yue stood as the ruler of his world, the forces of fate and justice waited patiently, biding their time to strike. Haisha was also afraid of Yue's actions. He is your father. When necessary, no matter how important a person is, he has to sacrifice. As expected, not long after, his father brought the box with the notebook according to the script, but he didn't expect that there was nothing in the box. Before he could react, the police, who had already ambushed him, surrounded him immediately. What made him even more afraid was that El, who was supposedly dead, appeared in front of him again. Who would have thought that this series of situations was planned by El? It turned out that El already knew Haisha was the second Kira. He had sneaked into the house and switched the real Death Note. Therefore, the notebook that Haisha brought was a trap. Haisha had written that El would die in a dream, which explained why El didn't die after Light Yue wrote his name. Yue's seemingly flawless plan made it difficult for El to find evidence. To make progress, El went so far as to write his own name in the notebook. Seeing El's determination to risk his life, Director Knight agreed to play along with the plan. However, at the last moment, Knight still believed his son wasn't Kira, until he personally saw Yue's name written in the notebook through surveillance footage. Even after being exposed, Yue didn't change his mind. The police acted quickly to stop Yu's next move. By then, Yue had completely lost his mind, ordering Liu Kei to kill everyone at once. However, Yue didn't expect the Shinigami to intervene. The god of death wrote Yu's name in the notebook, saying, "Who told you to trust me? It's over for you." At the last moment, Yue tried one final trick. Whether it was to stop him from killing, protect someone important like Lei Mu, or sacrifice himself, he couldn't escape Yu's relentless schemes.